YouTube? This is MWParry2009, aka SexyDreamPirate. I am coming to you guys at 11 o'clock on March 14th of 2013. So we are, well, I am 52 minutes away from the official release date of Dragon Strike 6DSI. Before Dragon Strike drops, I wanted to throw up a update of my Monodark Nightmare control deck. Now I have an Evo Fury version that's up, or a pre-Evo Fury version that's up on YouTube. I have a post-Evo Fury right after it dropped, and now that I have some testing done as far as the Evo Fury cards go, I wanted to throw up a pre-6DSI version of my Monodark Nightmare. I'm running some interesting card choices in this deck as of current, and I've been running these choices for the past couple months. So we got some cards in 6DSI that are really going to benefit this deck. And I ran Monodark before it was cool, back in the days of 3 Rise, and I wanted to throw up what I've been working with as of late, so nobody can claim that they were running Ghost Spy first or anything like that. But anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and jump into this. Starting off with my 1-drop section in my Monodark. This was actually inspired by CVH. I played CVH in a Skype tournament, in Jackmaster's Skype tournament, and he was running Blurple Tempo, and I saw the use of this card. It is so brutal. 3 copies Gigabolver. The turn 6 Bolver Medusa play, I wasn't using Bolver as bait at the time, and the turn 6 Bolver Medusa is just such a brutal play. CVH schooled me in it, and he ended up taking the match 2-0, just completely beat down. But it was then that I saw the use of Bolver, and I tried it out and been loving it ever since. Now, moving on to my 2-drop section, I run 2 copies of Scavenging Chimera, rather than the 3 that I was running whenever Evo Fury first dropped. And the reason I cut back is because it surprised me at the amount of screeching Scaradorables that were being played. And, I didn't like turn 2, dropping my scavenging, and then losing it, very shortly. And not only that, but this deck is not designed to play aggressive early game. If I do that, I'm pretty much setting myself up to fail. So, the turn 2 Scavenging Chimera was not really something that I wanted to be doing, so I went ahead and cut back on a copy of it, just so I'd see it more around whenever I needed it, and not so much in my opening hand. Both of those cards are they're somewhat go-to Evo bait for Medusa. Now, moving on to my only other 2 copies, or my 2 drops in the deck, I run 2 copies of Skeeter Swarmer. Now, as far as darkness blockers go, we're very limited on ones that have no drawback. I mean, we've got Gloom Hollow, which is amazing. Arguably one of the best blockers in the game, if not the best. And then we've got Dream Pirate, which is just so-so. It's not even, above average. But other than that, everything we've got pops or is just completely unplayable, such as Rotom. So, the 2-drop Skeeter Swarmer, if we had better options, I may consider running them. It's a really good play if they try to play some really early aggression on you, some rush. The Skeeter Swarmer is a really good play because although it's dying, it takes that creature with it. It's also really good. One of my favorite uses out of it is actually to drop it in around turn 4 so I can draw the Screeching Scaradorable out if I suspect they're running it. And, in that I can keep my Scavenging Chimera safe. So, that's why I'm running Skeeter Swarmer. Plus, with the recursion that this deck has, at its disposal, it's not necessarily a bad thing to have a big graveyard to pick from. So, anyways, that's my 2-drop section. Moving on to 3 drops. 3 copies of Gigastand, 3 for 2,000, discard when he attacks. The Darkness Seneschal, if you will. It's fantastic Evo bait. It's a good offensive 3-drop that this deck can make. It's probably the best turn 3 play that I can do, unless they're running Heat Seekers. Then it's not so great. Even if they are running Heat Seekers, they're running 3 copies and I'm running a card that I can pull out of my graveyard over and over. So, the Gigastand is it's really good bait, it's really good turn 3 aggression, and it allows me to create an advantage in breaking shields without giving them the card advantage. So, 3 copies of Gigastand. A lot of times it gets hit with Heat Seekers, but whenever it doesn't, it puts in so much work. My next 3-drop, I am still actually running 2 copies of Skullcutter. Now, to be completely honest, I could probably phase Skullcutter out of my deck entirely and make the count on the deck smaller. But, frankly, with 6DSI right around the bend, this has been my thought process in the past month or so. With 6DSI right around the bend, there hasn't really been, why take it out of the deck and lower my count when, here in 20, 30 days, I'm just going to be swapping it out to try something else. So, Skullcutter, 2 copies, kind of unnecessary, which it's doubtful, but if somebody drops Laser Arm Dracon or Neuron on turn 3, there isn't any turn 3 answers to those cards. The only thing that I can really hope to do is either, if it's Laser Arm, drop a blocker, and if it's Neuron, Skullcutter is, it's a bad answer, but it's somewhat of an answer to Neuron, even if all it does is draw the Rusalka out and, set me up for the Bone Blades on 8, or on, turn 4. But Skullcutter, it's not really necessary. It's an open spot for whenever 6DSI comes out. Moving on to the blockers. Of course, you can't have Mono Dark without at least 2 copies of Scaradorable Gloom Hollow. The majority of the community likes to run 3. I can't argue against Gloom Hollow. It's proved its worth time and time again. It is so good against the early game, really big Evos. Its importance may drop out somewhat here in, whenever Dragon Strike rolls around and actually people start doing some play testing. It may drop out. I'm not going to say that it will, because I see the Saberbolt decks, taking full advantage of DSI. So, Gloom Hollow is still going to have a lot of playability, but I only run 2 copies because there's nothing worse than the turn 3 Gloom Hollow just to protect your shields because they're coming in with Razor Hydra Seneschal. So, 2 copies. Now, also running 2 copies of Dream Pirate, which I keep in the deck, which Dream Pirate it has served me well ever since, I picked him up and started playing with it. And it's a good turn 3 answer to the early game aggression that you want to kill. If they've got a Blaze Belcher running around breaking shields, and I drop Gloom Hollow, that's not threatening at all. They'll just keep swinging with Belcher. But if I drop Dream Pirate, then I can at least block and kill the Belcher. And who knows, that may let the Weaponsmith through for the shield, and then I can attack the Weaponsmith if they don't attack my Pirate after he's tapped. But 2 copies, Dream Pirate, it puts in work, mainly against early game aggression and Razor Hide Seneschal and Gigastand. So that's why I'm still running him. Still like him. Alright, moving on to the 4-drop section. I'm running 3 copies of Fumes. Turn 4, discard. Power is actually a little bit above average, so that's amazing. I think it's kind of odd that they gave Bronze Arm Tribe 4 for 1,000 in an effect, and they gave Hydra Spy 4-drop 1,000 in an effect, and then Fumes got the most power of all, weaker Civ, or one of the weaker Civs, but I can't complain. 3 copies of Fumes, really good discard, good power for its effects as well. Now, as of recent, I've started playing another 4-drop that has taken precedence over Fumes. Originally, back before Direct Masters Tournament, I was running 2 Fumes, 2 Ghost Spy, and 2 Screeching Scaradorable. And since then, I've started seeing quite a few control decks and decks such as that. So I ended up phasing out the Screeching, which is definitely going to be coming back due to Lux. But I went ahead and maximized my Fumes. I also maximized 3 copies of Ghost Spy. Now, the Ghost Spy, I have put together a pretty, as good as a combo as I could run with him. But my 4-drop section, Fumes, 3 Ghost Spy, pre-DSI, and due to DSI, due to Lux mainly, probably going to cut down on the Fumes at least, and slip in some Screeching Scaradorable to deal with that. But 3 Fumes, 3 Ghost Spy for my 4-drop section, or aggressive 4-drop. Now, my defensive 4-drop, Rupture Spider. I get a lot of work out of this card. It's small enough that it'll be affected by Dracothane's effect if I choose to run it. It's small enough that it is affected by Return from Beyond. And it's cheap. I can get it, if they want to if they want to play a turn 4 Gilliflame or a turn 5 Neptus or something, I can sneak in the Rupture Spider and still have mana left over to make other plays. But I actually get a lot of work out of Rupture Spider. I think when DSI comes out, I think I'll continue to get a lot of work out of it. I think I think it's a pretty decent answer that Mono Dark has to Herald of Infernus. I think that card is going to get better. Well, at least, to me. Nobody really... If you're not running Mono Dark, you're not even considering Rupture Spider. But if you are, it's a pretty decent option, and I think a lot of people would be surprised if they tried it out. But anyways, that's the end of my 4-drops. Moving on to my 5s. Now, this is the card that I run with the 3 copies of Ghost Spy. I run 2 Quakes. Now, Ghost Spy is absolutely amazing with the momentum hand advantage wise, how much of a shift it creates in hand advantage. The problem with Ghost Spy is the only way to be guaranteed that hand advantage, the only way that we had before 6DSI, was to run your Ghost Spy into something that was bigger than it. Now, by using Quakes, I could at least take a creature with me. Now, granted, that required quite a bit of setup. They had to have a creature tapped. The Ghost Spy had to be out for at least a turn. So there was quite a bit of setup, but I did get the Ghost Spy Quakes combo off a few times. There was even a couple times that I got the turn 4 Ghost Spy, turn 5 Blackfeather, and then turn 5 Quakes, and ran the Ghost Spy into something. So 2 copies of Quakes, the main reason I was running them was to turn Ghost Spy into a Slayer so I could take a creature with him. By himself, I mean, he's not anything special, 5 for 3, so he's not, I mean, if you're looking for power, there's a lot better options out there. It was just the pure usefulness that I could get out of Ghost Spy that encouraged me to run Quakes. Now, 6DSI drops, there is a better turn 5 option for what I'm going to be needing Quakes 4, what I'm using Quakes 4 currently, there is a better turn 5 coming out in 6DSI. I believe it's called Ripper Reaper. Don't quote me on it, but I believe that's what it is. So, yes, I was running Ghost Spy before it was cool. I'm probably, that card, the new 6DSI, I'm probably going to be running 3 copies, swapping out the 2 Quakes, removing one of the Skull Cutters, and then I'm probably going to do some tweaking as far as other places in the deck. But as of pre-Dragon Strike, running 2 copies of Quakes to run off the Ghost Spy draw discard. Moving on to my next 5-drop, you can't, well, it's a bad idea to run Mono Dark without him. I see his use. I run 3 copies of Black Feather of Shadow Abyss. Since Medusa came out, if you're running the Bolver Medusa turn 6, Black Feather is just an amazing way to, like, capitalize tenfold over the Bolver Medusa. I love a turn 5 Black Feather followed up by a turn 6 Medusa play to kill something and possibly swing for something else. It's another huge shift in hand advantage, and it's very important for Mono Dark to have that hand advantage. You need the big spells in your hand if they drop a threat. Now, of course, I've gone on and on about it throughout this entire video. 3 copies of Hydra Medusa. Now, originally, when Evo Fury came out, I attempted to run 3 copies, and in my Evo Fury update video, I actually said that I was running 2, and at that time, I was, but I was also running a 40-card deck. The deck has gotten a little bit bigger, and I was having a really hard time just seeing all the Medusas in my hand at once. Now, granted, maybe it was because I didn't have a whole lot of play testing with it, and the deck wasn't adequately randomized, but I was just seeing them way too often. But since then, I've swapped to different bait, and I have made room in other places, and overall made the deck a little bit larger. So it seems to have helped as far as, Medusa now shows up whenever I need it to. I don't really need to talk about what Medusa does, because everybody knows it's amazing. It's still going to be around after Dragon Strike. So if you play me, you all will be seeing him quite often. Now, moving on to my finishers in the deck. 2 copies, Tekamora the Wretched. I believe it's actually the only super rare in the deck. Now, why do I run Tekamora? Because I can evolve the Medusa into that, I can evolve Bolver into that, and it's just a huge beat stick. It was a much needed beat stick for the Mono Dark game. Now, granted, it's kind of an aggro-y card for a deck that, I claim to be controlled. But in this area, especially the light blockers that people are running, it is not strange for me to see 3 copies of Grand Gear in one game, much less one match. People love the big light blockers here in Southern Indiana. They love the sit back and wait till you're ready and go crazy. So Tekamora the Wretched was just a no-brainer to me. I needed a big beat stick, and frankly, in this area, Deathliger wasn't even big enough. And the fact that it's a 6-drop, if I've got the Gloom Hollow down, if I've got the Gigastand down already, I can play him on turn 6 and just start playing a really aggressive game that, frankly, at turn 6, there isn't a lot of decks out there that have a way to deal with Tekamora. It's like Bronze Arm Sabretooth or Flame Spike. It comes in and starts playing aggressively before most decks are ready to fight back to that much aggression. So, 2 copies, Tekamora, really good. To be honest, I may drop 1 and attempt some play testing with Dracothane. I'm not sure. Don't quite know yet, but As far as a pre-Dragon Strike era goes, Tekamora put in so much work for me, and I loved it. Now, moving on to last two finishers in the deck, last two creatures in the deck. Not a lot of people like him. Still running 2 copies of Trox. Now, there's probably a lot of people that will tell you, to be competitive, Trox is not a good card because its effect doesn't come in on summon and blah, 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 blah. There's a lot of ways they can answer on turn 7. Yes, that's true. Yes, if I turned this deck over to, I can't remember his name, Adam something, the guy who does the deck text for the Kaijudo website. If I turned it over to any of the big names in Kaijudo, they would probably tell me, drop the Trox and run the Dark Scaradorable. Which, Dark Scaradorable is a really, really good card, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, like I said, here, big blockers are very common. If I can get rid of the big blockers, then even if I get rid of the big blocker, Trox can still see a lot of work, getting rid of Keeper of Clouds, Frogzuka, Floragil, Sunstock Seed, Prison Blade Enforcer, all of that. Trox puts in a lot of work in southern Indiana, I'll tell you that now. And, I could run the Dark Scaradorbles, but a lot of times what I prefer to do, my preferred way to do it, is do a turn 6 Medusa play. I can turn 7 Trox, and by this point I haven't even started breaking shields unless Gigastand put in some work. I've just been sitting back, building my card advantage, getting rid of theirs, and stacking the field. Now, if they kill my Trox, if they get rid of it, he is a double breaker, he does have decent power. If they get rid of my Trox with a pit or a root trap or anything like that, so be it. I still have the Tekamora, which is my main beat stick to turn to. I really like running Trox with Tekamora because if I can get both of them out on the field and swing it once, I'm breaking 4 shields and my opponent doesn't have enough time to respond. That's what I prefer. Now, if I played a turn 6 Tekamora and swung for 2 shields, and then played a turn 7 Dark Scaradorable, then it works out in such a way I've broken enough shields in a short enough time span they couldn't really respond. But if I don't have the Tekamora in hand and I summon up the Dark Scaradorable, I haven't really done any attacking. All I'm doing is plinking with that effect. I'm not creating any major advantage. In fact, I'm putting myself at a disadvantage. So, for that reason, I prefer to stack a Tekamora and a Trox on field and then start swinging rather than summoning up the Dark Scaradorable. It's just my preference. It's not for everybody. There's a lot of people who pick this deck up and try to run it and call me an idiot. I have a very interesting play style. There's quite a few people that can tell you that. But anyways, that's my creature section in the deck. Moving on to my spell section in the deck. I run 2 copies of this card. Now, me and the Chaos did a Evo Fury set review, and I still agree with what I rated it then. I rated it kind of average 3-star, but I'm actually getting some pretty decent work out of it. Running 2 copies of Return from Beyond. Now, Return from Beyond, oddly enough, is not something that I really want to see in my shields. If I can get one, I like to hold it in hand until I can create a definite advantage out of it. I really like the turn 3 Gigastand. They Heat Seekers it away. I Return from Beyond to get it back. That's pretty effective. I like the Rupture Spider. They swing into it. Both of them die. I pull my Rupture Spider back out and set it right on the field. Plays such as that. Honestly, the reason I added it in wasn't for the effect. I added it in for a more shield blast. Because before Return from Beyond, I was only running 6 spells. So I just added it in for some more spells and another Shield Blast. I can honestly say Return from Beyond is a spell that I want to get in hand rather than shields, because if they break it early game, I may not have anything in my graveyard. Anyways, 2 copies, Return from Beyond. I'm loving it. Moving on, of course, the standard in anything running Darkness. Even if you're running an 8-card Darkness section, you don't run it without 3 copies of Bone Blades, low-level removal, and 3 copies of Terror Pit. So good. Everybody runs them. If there's somebody running a Darkness section out there, if they have the cards in their library, I almost guarantee you they're running 3 Bone Blades, 3 Terror Pit. Now, the main reason, like I believe I said it earlier in the video, the main reason I ran over this deck is to show you all what I'm running pre-Dragon Strike. A day before Dragon Strike, this is what I've been running for the past month and a half as far as Mono Dark goes. I've had some really good results with it, and here, you know, as of tomorrow, going to a sealed event, going to open up some packs, and there's going to be some changes that are made. Predictions, which I'm going to back up with playtesting before I throw up another update for this particular deck, but predictions for a post Dragon Strike Mono Dark control. I am going to be taking out the Quakes for Ripper Reaper, I believe the name is for the card. And it'll just work so well with Ghost Spy. I'm really excited to try it out. Now, I have been debating on swapping my Skeeter Swarmers for Grudge Weaver, because I believe Grudge Weaver is the 2-for-1 blocker. When it dies, your opponent discards. I think that'll be a really good answer to Fire Dark Rush. I think it will give Ripper Reaper a really good target, so I'm considering that. And those are the main cards that I'm really looking at as far as this deck goes. I may try some playtesting with Draco Thane. As far as new cards I'm adding in the deck with 6DSI, those are pretty much the main ones I'm considering. Old cards going in or slots being traded out. I'm considering a few copies of Deathsmoke now. I think Deathsmoke is going to see a lot more playability. It lost some of its flair whenever Evo Fury came out. Just, yeah, all tournament competitive decks ran a decent Evo lineup. There's a lot of Bronze Arm Sabertooth, a lot of Neuron, a lot of Fast Attack Bolt Tails, stuff that you couldn't hit with the Deathsmoke no matter how hard you tried. But now, there's going to be a lot of these big scary dragons that are, you know, going to be summoned up, and they're going to be sitting there for one turn untapped, begging you to hit it with a Deathsmoke. So Deathsmoke is probably going to find its way back into the deck, and Screeching Scaradorable as well is probably going to find its way back into the deck to help deal with Lux, because Lux along with dragons is going to be such a threat. It just gets rid of my whole Medusa play, and I can't have that. I can't have that. So, those are the main changes that I'm thinking about. Now, like I said, we are doing a sealed event, Comic Quest, tomorrow. I know we've got at least 8 players guaranteed, possibly more. It's looking like we're going to run out of product before we run out of players, but I will be doing my best to throw up some matches and deck profiles from that sealed event as soon as possible. Until then, I hope you guys all have a great set premiere for Dragon Strike. And, you know, until next time, you all keep playing.